The comments and statements made within the show are the opinions of the commentators and their guests, have not been evaluated by the FDA, and are in no way attempt to diagnose, treat, mitigate, cure, or prevent any disease or illness. The contents of the show are not to be construed as medical advice. If you have a health condition or health concern, please contact a licensed, qualified healthcare practitioner.
Hi everyone, I'm Nan.
And I'm Tom, and this is a Supplement Super Sleuth.
That'll be me, and the Herbal Storyteller.
And that definitely would be me. And together, we're going to take a peek behind the curtain of the natural products industry.
We'll be sharing naturals in the news, dispelling lots of myths, interviewing key players in the industry, and highlighting our favorite herbs and supplements.
So with that, let's pull back that curtain and see what's there.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, hi, Nan. How are you today?
I'm really good this crazy morning.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy here. Even here in Santa Cruz, where it's always crazy, it's even more crazy than usual.
That's good. It's wintertime here, so Massachusetts can feel like the frigid north for sure, but good. It's all good. So.
You've got your super supplement, super sleuth cape on.
I do.
And you're warm and toasty, and
I have my magnifying glass.
Oh, good.
To make sure I can look at the headlines. And so that's what we're going to do. I think we should start with our Naturals in the News, our segment on Naturals in the News. So. Great. And I'd love to start hot out of the blocks, as the runners always say. There was a headline that I saw that I shared with you on Tongkat Ali, which is an incredible herb. I love it. It comes out of the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and I've used it in my herbal practice. I find it to be really safe and effective. And the headline says, Tongkat Ali may support reproductive hormones in young males, says recent study. The published study showed up in Nutritional Outlook, April 30th, 2021, a little dated, but still noteworthy. The results of a double-blinded, placebo-controlled, matched paired study, very well done, well-constructed study, show that supplementation with this Tongkat Ali supplement, it's called LJ Long Jack. That's the what we would call the plebeian name of the plant, Long Jack 100, was able to boost testosterone levels by 15% in a group of young males around 24 years of age. And that result is credited to activation of the adrenal glands. So, and I know you'll have some comments about Tongkat Ali, but I certainly do. The original studies that were done on Tongkat Ali that you and I actually discussed, I don't know, maybe a decade ago, Tom, were on older men, men in their 40s and 50s, and it was very effective. And so now it seems that it's also really good for younger men. So care to comment?
Well, one of the things that people talk about is testosterone. That's all we hear in the news. That's all we hear in blogs and everything else. Hey guys, your T is low. And being like I was kidding with Nancy yesterday, being a man of a certain age, which basically means I just turned 73 on Monday.
Amazing.
So yes, I know, January 10th, 73 years old, and still ticking. So basically, Tongkat Ali is something that is fabulous for helping to restore that sort of free testosterone that's very important. And it works for both men and women. And keep in mind that women do need testosterone as an activator. It's like an on switch, if you will. It's not the whole 9 yards, but it's not going to give you the deep voice of the beard.
No, but especially
most women might be afraid
if you start to lose muscle mass, or if you're working out, say you're a woman in your 40s and 50s, and you're working out hard and you're not really seeing that muscle mass convert from your hard weightlifting, and you might consider talking to an herbalist about Tongkat Ali. So, and I always recommend that you talk to your doctor, and then you talk to a skilled clinical herbalist about taking Tongkat Ali if you're a woman, but it's not going to grow hair on your chest. So, and something else in the news, and I really most of you know that I love talking about amino acids in supplementation. One amino acid that has been in the news lately in the natural products industry is N-Acetyl-Cysteine. And it's otherwise known as NAC. NAC. It's a naturally occurring amino acid that's found in foods like onions and garlic. And it's derived from the amino acid called L-Cysteine. And it's a precursor to one of the most important cellular antioxidants that's formed first in our liver called glutathione. And NAC has been widely used in finished dietary supplements for several decades. And it's frequently seen as a standalone product without any substantial safety concerns. However, back in the summer of 2020, the FDA issued 7 warning letters to supplement manufacturers telling them that the inclusion of NAC in their products constituted an illegal disease claim, and subsequently began the process of attempting to remove the use of NAC and acetylcysteine from dietary supplements in our industry. So a move that earlier this year prompted Amazon to pull all the NAC-containing products from its online marketplace. And Tom and I have been talking a lot about NAC off-air because of this developing situation and rapid changes in the status of NAC. So,
well, thanks, Nan.
Yeah.
It may not seem like it's a big problem at the outset. It's like, okay, so they're taking one supplement, but generally that's to people who really don't understand what's going on. NAC is the way it's normally referred to, or NAC, has been safely used in the dietary supplement industry for over 30 years. And it's an ingredient in over 1,470 different products, including those standalone products that Nancy mentioned. So to suddenly and arbitrarily on the part of the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, to say we're going to take it away from you because we believe that it's now a drug, that's kind of a arbitrary thing here. And what we're worried about is we think it's an overreach of the FDA's authority, and it's the rightful position of the natural products industry that this kind of an action from the FDA can and will be very damaging as an economic impact for the natural products industry. So what I want to do is just have a brief mention here of something else that this sort of smacks of, or reminds me of anyway, having been in the industry so long. Some of us who've been around for a while may remember something called Codex Elementarius. Now, Codex Elementarius was and is a guideline that's used by the European Union and the World Health Organization as a sort of a, if you will, a roadmap to how we should be taking supplements, how much of each supplement somebody should be able to get. And one of the things that it was is that maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot of talk about how, you could only get, according to Codex, you were only going to get 50 milligrams of vitamin C. Anything more than 50 milligrams of vitamin C, you'd need to go to a doctor and get a doctor's prescription for. And in the U.S., there was a great deal of uproar about that because we really did not want to align ourselves with this idea that doctors, who basically are not really given very much in the way of nutritional training when they're getting their MD, were suddenly going to be given the role of telling us how much of a nutrient or a vitamin that we could take, and which really would take away all of our ability to do anything as far as taking supplements in any kind of a useful amount, if you will. So, this was especially true around things like vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin A. They've sort of changed their position a little bit, but nonetheless, what it amounts to is a taking away of our ability, our free ability to be able to make decisions for our own health by being able to take nutritional supplements to help expand our dietary needs. So really and truly what we're doing here is we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful guest on our program, and we're going to bring him on here in just a minute.
Yeah, we're really excited about having Dr. Daniel Fabricant here, and we hope you're all sit up, take notice, take a few notes, listen. He has enormous amounts of information and experience to share with us. And as we launch into our next segment called Naturals in the Know, we want to do a little serenade, if you will, to start our new segment.
So with that, we're waiting to get Daniel on here. I've just sent him the invitation, and here's our music for our guests. And I'm going to start off and explain a little bit about Daniel as we're waiting for him to show up. Daniel is a doctor, he's a PhD, and he's the CEO and president of the Natural Products Association, otherwise known as the NPA. That's the nation's largest and the oldest trade organization representing the natural products industry, and that includes dietary supplements, foods, personal care products, and more. So most recently, Dr. Fabricant served as the director of the Division of Dietary Supplement Programs at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. And when he was there, he directed agency policy, public affairs, and regulatory action regarding regulation of the dietary supplement industry for more than 3 years. Now, as I said, this is Dr. Fabricant. He's Daniel to me, but it's Dr. Fabricant. He earned his PhD in pharmacognosy from the University of Illinois at Chicago, where he served as the adjunct professor in the Department of Medical Chemistry or Medicinal Chemistry and Pharmacognosy since 2009. Now, he's also published extensively, and he's internationally recognized for his regulatory and his governmental public health expertise and natural products research. So once we get him on, Nan, let me know when we've got him.
He's here. Dr. Fabricant, welcome.
Howdy.
Hi. We are so
Daniel,
honored that you would spend a little bit of your very precious time, I'm sure, especially now, with us on our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you, Nan, and as always, thank Tom. Tom and I go way back from regional trade shows, the old NNFA trade shows, all kinds of good stuff. So it's always, anytime I get to talk to Tom, it's a good time.
It's so great.
We have done the Silk Road of the supplement industry.
We are, right? Not so much a book, but maybe like a 10-part series, kind of a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of thing. I think we
wouldn't want to call it a docudrama.
We could have
the stories, right?
We could have some good episodes, I think so. But we'll another time. So
that is so great.
We so appreciate your time, Daniel. And it's one of the questions you may have heard what I was talking about before we came on is the fact that this is sounds somewhat similar to the idea of the Codex Elementarius, and we're going to control what you can take, what you can choose.
Yeah, there's definitely a control piece to it. I think, Tom, you're spot on, and I think that's where it's like, well, wait a second. It's like we're going to give the football back to Lucy, just to pull it away. It's like this has been fine for 30. We sent in records to the agency going back pre-94, going to 92, 91. So now all of a sudden, 30 years after the fact, hey, give me that. Whoa, right? So yeah, the first thing people go, and rightfully so. And look, we're not out there, with the black helicopter saying everything's a conspiracy. But people go, this doesn't smell right. Like there's something off here. And so, I think that's really the issue. And seems to be this approach from FDA. I think to your point, Tom, what it really smacks of is this FDA position of, hey, there are compounds, natural compounds, things in foods, things in nature, plants that are both foods and are drugs, and they exist simultaneously, and there seems to be this kind of reticence from FDA to deal with that. That look, it's the intended use. We're not trying to use NAC to treat things intravenously. People have been using NAC for years, oral ingestion, for a variety of ways to improve their health. We want to continue in that vein. Why is that a problem?
Yeah. So
any idea why they might?
Yeah, I'm really curious about why NAC is on the hot seat right now. I mean, I'm flummoxed about this. It's so safe. It's just an amino acid.
Right. And not even dealing with the safety, Nan, but what's the impetus, right? Like, this was fine. They sent the warning letters, and the warning letters were more about hangover claims. People were making hangover claims, and that NAC was...
That sounds like a disease to me.
Unfortunately, we've all suffered from it one time or another, right?
Right.
But yeah, so okay, it was really more about the claims, and then somebody, I think, at FDA had the idea that, okay, we're going to sprinkle this in about the ingredient too, and make it, punch up the letters a little bit. And then there were these cases against the company Blackstone Labs, where, and having sat on the other side, look, I prosecuted a number of cases when I was at FDA. And one of the things you do when you're prosecuting is you go to the, you want to go to the other, you want to go to your opponent and to the judge going, look at all these charges. And so I think somebody got cute and added the charge that, oh, hey, look, NAC, the company was selling steroids, right? Right. Not really our industry, not at all our industry.
Right.
But they also had a product with NAC, and so somebody, I think, at either Department of Justice or FDA got cute and said, okay, we'll add this in too and say it's an unapproved drug. And so I think that kind of got their hackles up. And, we, in some ways, we sent in a citizen's petition saying, hey, look, either say you made a mistake and it's lawful as both, or write a reg. The Secretary of HHS has the ability to write a reg saying, look, this particular ingredient isn't excluded because it had an NDA or an IND, and therefore all is good. They didn't do that. So it's like we weren't really left with a lot of other options.
No.
Yeah, so they're not willing to say, oops,
yeah,
we goofed.
And for our listeners, an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement.
It is that, but it's also, in this case, sorry, I should have spent, the capital's down the street, so I speak acronym. I really apologize.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. It's a new drug application. So so that this would be, and it's a trigger. There's a trigger in DSHEA in the Food Drug Cosmetic Act that if you have a new drug application in first to the agency and it's active before you sell it as a supplement, then technically it's precluded from the market. However, the secretary can override that. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. So we were like, look, even if they didn't want to admit they're wrong, because no one wants to do that these days, right? It's much easier to get fooled these days to have someone admit they were fooled. So that being said, I think we were like, look, we'll give you an out. The out is go ahead and have the secretary say, yeah, we're not sure about this, but you know what? People are taking it and they're using it, and we want to make sure that those two, the two tracks continue, and they didn't want to do that either. So here we are.
Yeah.
And in this climate of suspicion, where everybody is like, oh, they're taking, NAC has some really wonderful uses that are very applicable at the present moment. And so it does cause some concern, like, okay, is there a different agenda underneath this, or, so what do you think? Do you think that there's something else might come next? Do they have a bigger agenda? Do they have a hit list?
Right.
Or is it like somebody decided to get you?
There is that appearance that people have asked me repeatedly. This looks like all they care about is protecting pharma IP. There were the studies, and it's interesting. I guess I have somewhat of a personal tie to it. My daughter has CF, cystic fibrosis. I go with the acronyms again.
Yeah.
And they've been investigating NAC and CF inhaled for quite some time because it has a lot of positive effects on lung tissue. Well, lo and behold, we're in the I guess, depending on where you come down on this, I think it's safe to say that one of the most pressing issues on lung tissue in the past 100 years in COVID. And so, hey, whoever owns that IP may be very interested in those applications. CF is a small market, about 30,000 people in the United States have it. It's a fairly rare disease. But, everyone has been, I think, in contact to this point of COVID. I think I'm safe to say that. So, maybe people are interested in a larger market. I'm not going to insinuate that there's, a grander scheme at play here, but I do think there's, but I do think it's curious. The question should be asked, and also, I think what it really does, Tom, to your point is, wait a second, in terms of IP as an industry, right? Intellectual property is important, right? Whether it's your trademark, your brand, you created something, you were the first to test it for really a nutritional basis. How come on the pharma side you're protected forever and ever and ever from the naturals industry, but we don't enjoy the same protection the other way? You go, wait a second, how does this?
Because we're such bullies.
How does that? There's some weirdness there too. And that's the question that's kind of forced us and our leadership to ask is, go, wait a second, is this is going to happen again too? Here's the problem, right? The $64,000 question is, this is the same issue we're having with the cannabinoids, right?
Exactly. Oh, exactly.
Yeah, and so it's like
right on the money.
Right. So that's one of those where you go, okay, there's got to be like cooler heads have to prevail, and I think so much of this is driven. So I guess to my thinking, so much of this is being driven by the agency because I think the agency really does. Some folks really have a strong feeling about, hey, we really don't want cannabinoids out there in the general food supply. One, too late, right? Like, I mean, give me a break. It's like ship sailed,
Done.
Right? Marco
Done
Polo
deal.
went to Asia and back by now. Like, that ship is gone. But the bigger thing I think is, it's going to happen. So would you rather happen where you have the companies doing the science, going to the agency, going, hey, here's what we've got, let's check it out, or would you just rather have people going, hey, look, we'll take a risk? I'd rather if it's going to be a risk, I'd rather be a very structured, calculated. Yeah, yes. Perfectly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're doing a couple of things, but most notably, you're a pretty brave guy, kind of knocking knees with the FDA by saying, "Hey, wait a second, hello, something's not right here." So, I'm absolutely gaga over what you're doing. I commend you tremendously, and you're very brave. You're very, very brave.
Thanks, Nan. I'm not in it alone, though. And we really want to encourage people. Look, they can do simple things. Our website, I got to do one quick plug, but they can go to our website. It takes 30 seconds and write your members of Congress. Tell them this just doesn't make sense. And we've got, there's a form letter up there. They can edit it, but it tells their member of Congress, both their senators, their rep, that, hey, what's going on here? And start the conversation. We tell people all the time, and I know Tom's taken part in it. We have our fly-in day here. Last year was a little weird because everything's virtual, but now people are starting to meet in person, which is great again. Until the Delta, Omicron, Omega Mu variant or whatever comes next that keeps us from meeting in person happens, but we'll wait that out too. But people in the industry, we hold 80% of the country uses a supplement every day. 80%. 80% of Americans didn't eat an egg today, right?
And it's been growing.
Exactly. Yeah. People have figured out, even though our government hasn't figured it out, the best form of healthcare is not to get sick in the first place, right? So
exactly. That's true healthcare.
I think you're a little bit too advanced there,
so, healthcare is easier than sick care.
Right. Exactly. So that's the thing is, write your Congress people, get them to know who you are, get them to know, whether you're doing what you guys are doing, spreading the gospel, spreading information, whether you're a manufacturer, a retailer, let them know that, hey, I'm one of your constituents too. And, we always see the nonsense stories in the newspaper that we're not regulated. Well, that's not true. I mean, look, there's behind me my plaques from when I was at FDA, so that's not real. But the bigger thing is, look, and you can talk about it on a business level. Look, unfortunately, we all pay taxes, but we're a constituent. We vote too. So, even if the connection is just on that very basic level. But here's the thing I think you'll find. The majority of these folks in Congress, what a surprise, they mimic the rest of the United States. 80% of them take a supplement every day too. So
that's right.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me about the way that we structure protection, and I think having third party, you can call them a watchdog or what have you, in any industry, it is a good idea. I mean, I think there's a balance between protective laws and that general structure of, hey, you need to meet a certain grade or a level here because people are going to be ingesting this. I think that's important. But I think it's good business practice too, right? But I think something has gone a little sideways here. And what do you think that might be? I mean, my curiosity, since you're so close to it, I sit out here in the, I'm a clinical herbalist and a practitioner, and I've been in the natural products industry with Tom for decades, and I'm wildly passionate about our industry. And there's a lot of strange stuff going on the internet that has nothing to do with the real natural products industry. Do you think that that's had some impact on why the FDA might be getting a little tougher with us? I mean, is there anything there?
I think, look, being a regulator, I'm a reformed regulator, right? I go to Regulators Anonymous. I think there's a few things. I think that there's such a push now, and I think you touched on it, Nan, is there's so much polarization, right? Is it's you're either with us or you're against us. I was like, the regulator should be squarely in the middle of that. They should be hated by both sides, quite honestly.
Good.
Right? I mean, they should be, and the issue is,
Exactly.
like NAC was, and I think to Tom's point, it was completely out of the blue, completely non-specific. It was just like, hey, we're going to exercise something over you. We haven't really thought it through, but we're just going to exercise this control over you. And it's like, no, a regulator, at their best, to your point, Nan, is we want a regulator. There should be controls on a marketplace. It makes for a better marketplace. If the controls aren't making for a better marketplace, then what are they doing? And I think that's the issue. This was non-specific. Any of these problems should be specific. What's this? If we knew from FDA what the specific problem they were trying to address with NAC was, it'd be a lot easier conversation. We don't have that information.
We could address it easily, I'm sure.
Right. And so that's why we're sitting here going, well, is it this? Is it a pharma IP issue? Is it a they don't like it issue? Is it the is it cannabinoids? What is it? We don't know. And that's the problem. It should be, I think transparency gets overused nowadays. Transparency, I think, just means people spend 6 hours a day on social media. I don't think it means what it's supposed to mean anymore. But, if there was like this layer of, hey, okay, real talk, here's why we did it. We're concerned. If there was a safety signal, they'd be obligated to tell us. Well, I think, you said it, Nan. Where's the safety issue in NAC? I mean, you got a lot of years of use. You have even more studies, clinical studies, where you haven't seen adverse effects. So if there's a specific population they're worried about, okay, let's have that discussion. And the industry would be willing to address that, right? If there was this data point that, NAC in, pregnant or expecting women had, liver effects, okay, we'd post a warning, no problem. But this is all like, it's this black box environment, and that makes everyone uncomfortable. It's not a good place for anybody to be.
Yeah.
Well, and it shouldn't be that, you come back with the NPA comes back to the FDA and says, hey, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Please explain this to us so that we can have a conversation. And then you get stonewalled and you don't hear any kind of response at all. And it can't be that, oh, well, it's COVID, so everybody's sequestered and we're all, It's not that. Not with something like this. This has got some financial impact on the industry. This has got some serious impact on certain individuals like your daughter. And it's not something that should be, people should be dragging their feet. So why do you think they made it to the point where you guys had to actually file a lawsuit?
Yeah, Tom, well said. I wish I knew. As I tell people, and certainly DC, I don't like going to court. It's like a battle. It's like war. Nobody wins at the end of the day. The lawyers win. Sorry, they always win. Yeah. The lawyers always win. They win. But that aside,
they get a new car.
That aside, right? It's like to really have a serious conversation, we had to take this action. I think that's the only way, because you're right. We were getting stonewalled. We were getting kind of double speak. We weren't getting anything real that we could take back to our members who have been, they financially, like you said, most of the major e-tailers pulled this because they kind of got pressured to. So this is a problem. It's also a problem. I don't know if you guys are familiar. You've got some members of Congress, especially the Senate, Senator Durbin from Illinois, who's been a longtime critic of the industry.
Yeah.
He wants to require companies to put products on a registration database, their labels. And you go, okay, what's the harm of that? Here's the harm. It's administrative, right? What would be the fate of something like NAC, right? Where FDA has said, yeah, we don't think you're a dietary ingredient. You can't be in supplements. So we're not going to put you on that label database. What do you think would happen in the marketplace then? Amazon, they would go, hey, we can't sell you because you're not not on the list. You don't get in the club, right? This is the issue has a lot of strings to it that we're trying to keep even, Tom, trying to keep them untied, and we got to get to the conversation. They owe us a response on February 7th. Hopefully they'll get back to us before then. We anticipate they're going to try to dismiss it and everything else. And so I think at the end of the day right now, we know one thing for sure. We're probably going to be spending a lot more time with the government and talking to them. So but we'll keep fighting. It's too big not to fight. And it makes no sense, I think, I think everybody is just kind of scratching their head going,
Right. It's yes, like I said, it has me flummoxed. Yeah. And we definitely want to support you in your efforts. And I know some of our listeners will. So we will make sure that we share your website.
Terrific.
And help people to understand, how to get involved and that. So
we have a voice in our government.
Yeah, exactly.
Still.
Even though we may not think we do,
We do.
we have a voice
and
in our
that's
government.
you're exactly right, and that's the thing. I think people are there's so much right now, right? Like you walk in the grocery store, shelves are empty. There's so many other things getting added to your plate, but I think we always have to remember, Tom well said, like, make your voice heard. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to write write War and Peace to your senator or congressperson. It can just be like, hey, I'm someone who's an avid user of natural products. I do it to stay healthy. It's kept me, it's kept me healthy for my life. I want people to have that same option. Let's talk. It's an interesting time right now, but and one thing I'd love to do, and I guess I'm plugging myself here, but when we get a response from the agency, we'd love to talk to you guys again and kind of give an update.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
You can count on it. I know where you live.
Welcome anytime. Keys under the mat, Tom. Come on in.
You're just you have so much energy, and it's so positive. You're very positive, and I love this conversation. I think it's an important one, and we definitely want to make sure that people hear it. We're not in a we don't want to bash our FDA, because again, I'm a person, I like structure, I like rules, but I also want to understand when new rules show up. It's like, well, why are we doing this, and what's the importance of it? How does this help people, and how does this help our country? So I like that balance, and you have a very balanced viewpoint. You are really in the muck of it, though. I don't know how you do it.
That's, man, you can't see. He's wearing a suit jacket, but down below he's got
battle armor.
On.
He's got the battle armor.
Sometimes you got to delouse, after DC. You just gotta get deloused every so often. So, but
oh God, well, we really appreciate you.
Danielle, what I love about it is that, like Nan said, I really think the FDA has an absolutely valid purpose. I love it. What I worry about is that when we get something like this and it goes out, and now with the age of the internet and internet stores and internet companies, the e-tailers will pull them all off. They'll immediately, because it's a knee-jerk reaction. They don't want to have the weight of the government come down on them. But there are so many companies out there, these little garage, I want to call them a garage band company, literally, that are throwing stuff together that, and then they put it out, and maybe they're around for 6 months, a year, whatever, but they know if they got their marketing down, they know how to find people on the internet, and they'll sell them stuff. And let's keep it regulated, but let's keep it free.
Right. I mean, I think that's exactly right. Is there's a way to strike a balance, that we need them out there inspecting. We need them out there testing, especially in the garage type environments. That's not good for any of us that are a part of the industry. We don't, hey, oh yeah, I made it in my garage where I also machine metal and the metal shavings made. Like, no. We don't need to. That's a step backwards. But I think you're right. When you take these sort of, and I think you used the word arbitrary, Tom. Well done, law school professor. I think it is. It's arbitrary because you go, how does this? You've got to have an agency that also sees the value of the industry they're regulating. I think there's been a challenge, and I can certainly say from my time at the agency, not everybody saw the value in the industry. I certainly did. I continued, and I said it publicly. I continued to take supplements when I was at the FDA. I never stopped. So it's like, I want to, I want to make sure facilities are inspected and there's testing going on at the borders. And so
absolutely,
that's, and that's really where we need them. And when these issues, like you said, Tom, what's the specific issue that's coming up? Why do we not have a clear understanding of what their gripe is with NAC? We don't. And that's a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that will take that lid off of it that makes everybody go, what's going on here?
Right. And then we don't want the suspicion to take over, and we want clarity. I think clarity is crucial to understanding. So, but thank you, and thank you so much. We definitely want you back on.
I'd love to. Like I said.
Absolutely. We want to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, right? Like how this. I mean, they're going to move to dismiss. They're going to, and we're ready for that. I can't talk about that at this point, obviously, because it's ongoing. But well, I think they'll try to dismiss it because. Here's the thing that's interesting about FDA is it's not actually their attorneys that litigate. They've got to work through Department of Justice. I mean, and there's some very good litigators at the Department of Justice, but they've got to be expert in FTC law, SEC law, all these consumer laws. Like, they may have a very good working knowledge of the Food, Drug, Cosmetic Act, but it's not as going to be as in depth as someone at FDA would have. So it'll be interesting to see how, if they actually want to dig in, or, you know, maybe they push back on FDA a little bit and say, hey, this is really, like, this is the hill you want to die on, right?
With everything else that's going on, you want us to deal with this?
Because it just seems to be, you know, and the first thing everyone says is what you said, Nan, is you've got 30 plus years of hundreds of millions, if not billions of doses people have consumed. It's like, I don't think any of us stepped over the bodies that were befallen by NAC on the way into your home or office this morning, right?
Exactly.
So,
No.
right, it's one of those where you go, how is this a public good?
Right.
Yeah.
It's part of nutrition.
Yeah.
It's in food.
Right.
And in good amounts in food. You know, onions and garlic. It's in significant amounts in onions and garlic, which, you know.
And your body makes it.
Sure,
Yeah, your body uses it for glutathione.
And your body makes it.
You need it for
Yeah.
glutathione. You know, get the bad stuff out. So
It's just basic nutrition.
Yeah.
Basic nutrition. So what's the gripe? Right. So,
Well, Daniel,
well,
I
thank
know
you
you've got
so
another
much.
appointment
Yes.
that you've got to go to. We appreciate
Oh God,
it.
thank
no,
you.
thank you guys.
Thank you so much for living in Washington, D.C., ground zero.
You know, it's not without. You know, yesterday was a good day. We won our Supreme Court case on the vaccine mandate,
Yes.
so that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, you're only as good as your last 5 minutes in D.C. So yeah, back onto another.
What
you know,
next?
yeah,
What
right.
next?
Onto another. But thank you guys, and thanks for what
Thank
you
you
do and
so
getting
much.
the good stuff out there. And yeah, look forward to sitting down and chatting when we have an update here.
Absolutely.
All right, and like we say to all of our guests, wait till you see the confetti before
Before you
us
turn
off.
yourself
You're
off.
free.
But you can go say, you can press stop and then wait for the
I want to
confetti.
see the confetti. I'm waiting for the
Okay,
confetti.
cool.
All right,
Thank you,
Daniel.
Daniel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. All right, have a good day.
care.
Wow, Tom, that was a crazy, stimulating
I
conversation.
love that.
He has more energy than anyone should rightly have, right? Thank God, because
Well, we're so
we're
you know,
so
we are
lucky
very
to have
to
him.
have people like that
Oh my God,
representing us.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Our favorite things. I
totally love our favorite
Oh my
things.
God, I love our favorite things, right? So, and as I've said before, and you'll probably hear it over and over again, I love talking about and using amino acids in supplementation. They are not hot. They're not sexy in the supplement world. Certainly not. I mean, people go crazy about resveratrol and nobody's talking about amino acids, but I'm old school because they actually have been around so long. So, you know, amino acids are the building blocks of protein and thus a solid, very solid part of healthy nutrition. And in my experience, they're often really safe and effective, incredibly safe. I mean, too much is too much, right? The rule of Goldilocks. It's always, right, you got to get it just right. And that has to do with, you know, your recommended serving sizes. But I think if you're right in there for RDA or recommended daily amounts or recommended serving sizes from your best supplement companies in the industry, you should be pretty safe and healthy. L-Lysine. So I really want to talk about L-Lysine because this particular amino acid has been in my medicine chest for, I don't want to say 30 years, literally.
Oh, yeah.
Easily in my, I mean, literally, I have personally taken it for a very long time. I recommend it often to my clients. In a healthy diet, lysine is found primarily in meats. In vegetarian diets, lysine is substantially less due to limited quality of lysine in legumes and cereal crops like wheat and corn and that kind of thing. So peas are an okay source of lysine. Yeah. So make sure you get your peas if you're vegetarian. Eggs, red meat, lamb, pork, poultry, cheese, especially hard cheeses like Parmesan cheese. Parmesan cheese has the highest amount of L-lysine. And certain kinds of fish, sardines, codfish, they have high amounts of lysine in food. And interesting to note, this is a for real data point. There's almost 700,000 tons of lysine that's produced and used in animal feed in the global market. So, and that data comes from 10 years ago, so there's even more use today. Animals, in animals, L-Lysine supplementation allows for the use of lower cost plant protein, so corn, instead of, grasses and that kind of thing. So it maintains high growth rates in animals, and also reduces pollution from animal waste. So that's why it's used in that world, that industry of animals. So that ought to tell you, it's, it's pretty safe and very useful. So diseases related to a lack of lysine are the result of kind of your body's inability of processing lysine. So some people, have high protein diets, low carb, high protein diets, but still are low in lysine. And that's just because of some issue with their detoxification and utilization in their digestive systems. But a lack of lysine can lead to several kinds of disease states, or be in kind of related to or a part of how the disease state gets worse. And those would be connective tissue issues. So a lot of people who have laxity in their connective tissue, that there's a whole process of creating collagen. Lysine's a very, very important part of that. So without enough, there's failure in your body's ability to make connective tissue. And there's a lot in the supplement industry about collagen and hyaluronic acid, but nobody talks about lysine. And without lysine, those supplements don't work at all. So that's a really important kind of key thing to think about when you're thinking about your diet. Lysine also has been shown to play a role in anemia, as lysine is suspected to have this effect on the uptake of iron, right? Blood is a tissue, right? So lysine plays a huge part in blood and the function of blood and how it attracts iron and utilizes iron. It's called histone modifications. And so it can very much affect what's called the epigenome. So what that means too, lysine has a huge effect on epigenetics. Epigenetics are things in food that can affect gene expression. So whether it's a bad gene or a good gene, you want the good genes to express themselves and you want the bad genes not to express themselves. Lysine contributes to how you modify the gene expressions in your body. So I found lysine to be useful with those who have repeated cold sores, stubborn issues with their skin, and also with those who've tried to build their blood with kind of poor results. Like they're taking iron, their doctor gave them iron, or they're taking iron supplements and they're constipated, but they're still anemic. I find lysine to be very helpful in those cases. It's not the only thing. Changing the diet's really important, but L-Lysine, 500 milligrams is a recommended, standard, suggested supplement. So that's basically a safe amount to take on a daily basis and can be very helpful and effective. So I'm done with lysine, and now Tom.
Oh, right. That's super great information. And I actually, it hits home very deeply because I take lysine every day, just because of a tendency to get cold sores if I get a little bit stressed out. And well, speaking of stress, I guess the stress over the past 2 years has kind of really brought certain herbs that I've known for years, but certain herbs right back into my field of view. And not to say that I haven't used them before, quite the contrary, really, but I absolutely love them. But lately I find that there are even, when I start to think about what can I do to, take the edge off a little bit, some of these herbs are really right in the forefront of my thinking. And, we've already I mentioned my favorite of favorites, the holy basil. And I mentioned California poppy because living in California, it's the state flower and it blooms all over and it's so beautiful. It always makes me happy to see. But I want to take another minute here and talk about another old standby and favorite of mine, and that's lemon balm or Melissa officinalis. Many folks are aware of lemon balm, especially if they have any kind of problems with cold sores, because lemon balm is one of those specifics. It's practically as specific as a home remedy or a granny remedy for cold sores, and it can be applied as an essential oil directly to a cold sore. You just want to make sure that you mix it with a carrier oil, like coconut oil or olive oil, because certain essential oils can be very caustic. They're very concentrated. So you want to thin it down a little bit. Now, most users report almost immediate relief, and this is the experience for me too, of the tingling and the pain that goes on when you're starting to have a cold sore come out. And also, they report that using lemon balm like that gives them a faster resolution time. Now, and very often, as Nan might have mentioned there, it's mixed with the amino acid that Nan was talking about, which is L-Lysine. So the two of them work very well together. Now, if you go out and you read PubMed, or not PubMed, but WebMed MD, which is sort of the research site that a lot of people go to say, well, okay, is this safe? They're going to tell you that there isn't enough evidence to substantiate these effects. But lemon balm has been used for centuries, literally centuries, in the Middle East, where it's a native species. And there have been numerous studies on many of its other effects in the body as well. So it's one of those that's looked at as GRAS, or generally recognized as safe, GRAS. And one of the most commonly mentioned uses of lemon balm is for the fact that it's an anti-anxiolytic. It takes the edge off. It helps to relieve mild anxiety and stress-related worrying. Now, personally, I grow it in my garden. I love to garden, so I grow it in my garden. But I got to tell you, if you're going to plant it in your garden, you're better off putting it in a pot or putting it in some place where it's not going to invade the rest of the garden, because it loves to spread. So
it does.
Be aware that if you put it in your garden and it suddenly takes over, like the plant that ate your yard, lemon balm can do that. So sort of be aware of that. But it's easy to use. It's so easy, because if you want to use it throughout the day, you can pick a whole bunch of leaves, muddle them in a little jar with some spring water or some clear water, and then sip it throughout the day, and you're going to get the benefits of those leaves throughout the day. Now, if you're taking it as a capsule or something, basically what you want to do is you want to take anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams 3 times a day. And you can take more if it gets really, things are really stressful. And that's one of the things I like about it.
Tell our people what muddling is. A lot of our people don't know what muddling is.
Muddling, if you go to, if you're going to take some mint in an old-fashioned mint julep, what they'll do is they'll put the mint in the glass, and then they'll take a little club almost, and they'll smash it up so that it releases the compounds. So muddling is just making sure that you're bruising and smashing the leaf up a little bit so that it can release the beautiful compounds that it contains, and you can get the benefit of them. And lemon balm combines really well with some other herbs like Western skullcap or valerian or California poppy, or like I said, my very favorite holy basil. It works extremely well, and a lot of people like to combine it with valerian if they're having trouble getting to sleep. And speaking of studies, there are animal studies done looking at the fact that it has some very beneficial neurological effects. It can help to alleviate migraines, and there's even research on it because they think that there might be possible benefits for Alzheimer's as well. So even though the studies are not conclusive, they're very promising, and because they're promising, research is going on. And as with every herb, just remember this, keep this in mind. I love to tell people this: everybody is different. So each one of us is different, and each one of our bodies is different. Start out slowly and see how your body responds. If you don't feel like it's giving you any kind of a problem, then you can increase your serving size. You can read that as dosage on other things, but in this industry we talk about serving sizes because we're not making drugs. And it's a good idea to take a break from it every once in a while, just to let your body do its own thing, because what you're doing is you're building your resistance, you're building support in your body for the things that lemon balm is capable of helping you with. So with that, Nan, I'm going to say there is my favorite thing for this time.
So great. Such a beautiful plant, and it is profuse, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, and it just smells wonderful.
Love it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, you folks are probably wondering who the heck we are. And who are these goofy guys and gals who are talking to people on the internet? And so I just want to introduce this. Nan has had a complementary and an alternative health and herbal practice for 32 years, and she's focused on difficult to treat conditions. And she's also been a spokesperson and an educator for the natural products industry for well over 27 years for some of the most reputable and well-known companies in the industry. So she comes with a great deal. It's why I love to call her the supplement super sleuth, because if I had a question about, hey, Nan, what about this supplement, this nutrient? She would dive down the rabbit hole, come back with enough studies to break a camel's back and tell me, okay, Tom, here's all the stuff. Go ahead and read. Plop. So that is Nan, and I have the deepest respect and love for her in this industry.
Oh, and Tom's herbal background goes way back. Actually, he often says 1970 in Hawaii, but I think he was born an herbalist. He was born a surfer, but he was also born a naturalist. And plants and herbs in his surroundings were always important to him. He was an organic farmer. He worked with local practitioners making fresh organic juices for their patients in a very big way. I mean, it was very important. These doctors were doing, in Hawaii, were doing big work with people who were extremely ill, and he was providing them with these incredible fresh juices. And since then, over the past 30 years, he's worked for two very large, very well-known companies in the natural products industry as their herbal educator and trainer, and he's one of the best. The first time I ever saw Tom give a training, I was mesmerized. And here I was, an educator, and I just sat there with my mouth hanging open. He's so good. He has a gift of getting the point across in a really succinct way. Excellent vocabulary. And I'm very lucky to be doing this project with Tom. So I hope you all are enjoying this. We're going to be doing this podcast twice a month. We want to interview key people and thought leaders in the natural products industry. Today's special guest was outstanding. And if you wouldn't mind, please like our Facebook page and share our podcast with interested friends and family. And let us know if there's something you want to hear us talk about or people you want us to interview. We want to grow this podcast to support all of you so that you feel like you're getting another a deep look into what the true natural products industry is. So, and with that,
no, Nan, I got to tell you that you got to hear this. You got to hear this. There's this guy. He walks into a doctor's office.
Yeah.
And he's got a carrot in his ear, and he's got a cucumber in his other ear, and he's got a banana sticking out of his nose. And he asks the doctor, "What's wrong with me?" You know what the doctor told him?
No.
You're not eating properly. So there we have it.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Stay well out there.
Okay, everyone. Until next time, I'm Nan.
And I'm Tom.
And we'll have more great topics and guests in the very near future. So join us right here in 2 weeks as the Supplement Super Sleuth
and the Herbal Storyteller take another deep dive into the fascinating world of the natural products industry.
See you later.